Today we're going to be talking all about Gaius the Gleeful. Hey, welcome! I'm LeilaFox. Today's lore story is going to be for Gaius the Gleeful. Gaius is the new legendary Night Revenant champ for Raid Shadow Legends that also happens to be the Fragment Fusion event for April 2022. Now, what's really funny when you look at him, he gives me such like Joker and Loki type vibes. And before we get to his lore story, let's check out the Night Revenant faction lore as a whole. Disciples of the Cleth Death Cult, the Knights Revenant see themselves as vessels of the spirits of the dead of their order. They raid indiscriminately to capture slaves to support themselves and as ritual sacrifices. Upon initiation, devotees surrender their bodies to the spirits of dark warriors. Let's get into the lore story for Gaius the Gleeful from the Tolarian Lore Book of Champions.
There is no lack of creatures of nightmare for the mothers of Teleria to scare their children into obedience. Skavag the Loathsome, the lizard men from the sewers of Arnok, and the vile serpent of Krokan are all said to have a taste for misbehaving children. Still, among the young nobles of Karok, nightmares take a very different shape. Gaius the Gleeful, a deathless assassin in the guise of a fool, is credited with the destruction of no less than 13 aristocratic families over the past centuries. Sometimes, he appears out of nowhere in the middle of the night and unleashes joyous slaughter in castles and manors that were thought impenetrable. And sometimes, he leads a ghastly circus troupe whose performances always end in blood. Though many heroes claim to have ended Gaius's carnival of doom, he always reappears years later to claim another victim. It was even rumored that an entire guild of elusive murderers operates across Teleria under the motley Harlequin guise. The truth is both simpler and more terrifying. Gaius is a master assassin of the clandestine Knights Revenant cult, a being of ancient rancor and prowess, whose spirit had been bound by magic beyond the reckoning of most mortals. Should he fall in battle, there is no lack of willing or unwilling hosts who would give their bodies to bring the cult's favored tool back to the world of the living. There is little Gaius remembers of his origins, save for the seething hatred he holds for the so-called nobles. Some 300 years ago, he lived a life of merriment and plenty, traveling the lands with a close-knit troop of performers. His family and he were beloved by the common folk and often invited to carnivals or fairs that brighten the routine of peasants' lives. Alas, in one such performance, Gaius unwittingly insulted a proud and cruel duke with a jest. Enraged, the town's ruler ordered the entire troop seized and thrown into the dungeons, there to await trial. Many found their death on the gallows in the days that followed. The Duke wished Gaius to suffer, forced to see his friends and loved ones die as penance for the perceived injury to his honor. But he knew not the doom he had created. Desperate and driven to madness, Gaius implored the higher powers for strength and vengeance. And Sirath answered. When the dawn of Gaius's death arrived and he was taken to the gallows, he was a man changed and twisted. With beastly strength and dark magic, he overcame the guards and unleashed a slaughter the likes of which that sleepy town had not seen before or since. The Duke and his cronies died screaming when the mad jester descended upon them in a hurricane of blades, and a great fire consumed the town square. How Gaius found his way east to the Stormwind Wastelands, this story does not say. But his mastery and his malice were of great use to the Night Revenant who took him in. From that day, Gaius the Gleeful was free to unleash his retribution upon Teleria.
Alright, so that was the story for Gaius, and kind of like I was saying in the beginning, he gives me such Joker and Loki vibes, and I find it so interesting how they give him a backstory of how like he was a traveling performer, almost like a jester, right? Kind of like I was saying, like a Joker, and basically they're circus performers, and he ends up insulting somebody. So unfortunately, because he does that, his family, his friends, pretty much the whole circus, they're slaughtered, and in his in his weakness, in his sadness, he reaches out, and unfortunately Seroth is the one that answers and gives him supernatural powers. But they kind of make it about how like he kind of went mad. And again, like I was saying, I kind of like this because it really does give me these fun Joker kind of vibes. And they talk about like his Circus of Doom, so I find it so interesting, so fun, and just different how they do this. And then they talk about how there's other like cultists that run around also pretending to be him, which again, if you're familiar with the Joker at all, in a lot of like the movies, the comics, like they do the same thing, how there's like, you know, the followers that run around wearing the masks or also try to pretend to be him too. So I think it's a lot of fun how they kind of went and tried to tie some of that together. I would love to know what you think for the story for Gaius the Gleeful. Leave me some comments down below. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, check out some more videos up here in the playlist on the top right.